Story name: Whispers of the Unknown. It was a chilly winter night in 2012, either late December or early January. At the time, I worked at the call center of an ISP. My sleep schedule was so skewed that I would wake up around noon, making me a regular for the 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. shift. Like any other day, the office car dropped me off in front of my house at precisely 1:50 a.m. Both my grandparents had heart condition, so even the slightest noise at night was strictly forbidden. Like a cat, I silently opened the collapsible gate on the ground floor and tiptoed up to my attic room on the fourth floor. On the table, there was a plate of rice, some cold beef curry, and thick mung dal waiting for me. Within 2 minutes, I gobbled down the meal, changed out of my work clothes, and splashed some water on my face. It was 2 a.m. midnight for most people, but the beginning of my night. As I stepped out of the car earlier, I had noticed the moon shining in the sky, bright as an overturned silver plate. Wrapped in a shawl, I lit a gold leaf cigarette and headed up to the roof. Right next to our house was a vast sandy field belonging to Asian city. The moonlight made the sand shimmer, and the gusty northern wind added a bonus to the light's charm. My heart swelled with contentment. It was the kind of night that inspires people to post on Facebook. Life is beautiful. I was so lost in my own thought that the burning cigarette sunk my fingers, snapping me out of my trance. Damn it, I muttered to myself after scolding myself internally. I turned around to head back inside. The dense darkness forced me to tread carefully as I moved toward the door. But when I looked ahead, I froze in place like I see. Throughout my life, I have experienced plenty for fear, even in life and death situation. I have always managed to keep a clear head in the worst situation or under unimaginable pressure. When my back is against the wall, my fear tends to vanish entirely, allowing me to make the best decision. But this time it was different. Both my body and mind froze at the sight before me. I have known for years that my eyesight is faulty. My glasses have been bearing witness to that for 11 years. When someone says, "Nayan, you must have seen it wrong," I always smile and respond, "To err is human, man is mortal." But what I saw that night was no error. In the moonlight and the faint glow spilling through the gap in the door, I saw it as clearly as I see my own hands. What did I see? Before starting to write this, I spent a long time thinking about how to describe the thing. Before I get to that, let me tell you something else. I was born in the CMA's hospital in Comilla. When I was 11 months old, there was an outbreak of malaria, so my father brought my mother and me to Dhaka, to my grandmother's place. Since then, Dhaka has been my home. I have spent my life in this neighborhood, near the airport. Darkness is no stranger to me, but I have never felt comfortable in it either. When my friends ask for my opinion, I would smile and say, if ghosts exist, they exist. If they don't, then the case is dismissed. either way. I hope they never cross my path. My heart is too weak. That night I got my answer. I have no idea what the thing was. Maybe it was a misfire gene, as some devout people might say. Maybe it was the big man from childhood stories, a malevolent spirit, or an unfulfilled soul. It was about a handspan taller than me. In the moonlight, I could clearly see its form, wrapped in a white shroud, completely covered. It looks as though it had just been dressed after a ritual worship. For the first time in my life, the hair on the back of my neck stood up straight. I started at with disbelieving eyes, unable to process what I was seeing. To say my brain had stopped working would be wrong. It was functioning, but 80% of my thoughts were consumed by fear. The remaining 20% a chaotic mix of the about death, endless questions, and a desperate attempt to remember any prayer or verse. Like any average Friday Muslim, I had around 20 surah memorized. They came to me automatically during prayer, requiring no conscious effort to recall. But that night I couldn't remember a single one, not even the name of a surah, not even an Arabic letter. My mind was a runaway train of the doors. What is this? Oh my god, what is this? What do I do now? Should I jump off the roof? The building on the east side is only 2 stories high. If I jump with my eyes closed, at most break a limb, but I won't die. Oh God, what is this thing? Look away. Nayan, why are you staring? Look away, you idiot. Look down, don't look at it. It's nothing, just an illusion. What does the surah I knew? Forget it, forget it, forget it. Why won't it leave? I am scared. Oh God, please make it go away. But no, it won't go away. It's not like a chicken you can shoo away. Oh God, what do I do now? Why isn't it leaving? I couldn't utter a single word. Not one scent escaped my lips. Suddenly, I felt like the thing was floating toward me. It never occurred to me to look at its lower half. I was hypnotized, staring at its head, and then I clearly saw it move closer. Oh God, I wanted to scream so loudly that the heavens would split. I swear to God, but all that came out was a guttural groan, and then I lost consciousness. When I regained consciousness, I briefly opened my eyes but immediately shut them again, terrified by the pitch black darkness around me. A troubling pain in the left side of my head made its presence known, while my chest felt like it was hosting a chaotic duet of Brazilian samba and Indian doorbells. I took a deep breath and made a decision. Under no circumstance would I open my eyes again, no matter what happened. Keeping them shut was my only plan. My left hand was pinned under my body, shifting it slightly. I felt the reassuring presence of my cigarette pack in my pocket. My confidence grew further when I realized the matchbox was still there too. Believe me, I can light a cigarette on a moving rickshaw in a heavy downpour. But that night, it felt like an eternity before the scent of brewing tobacco reached my nose, and only after a slight adjustment did the nicotine finally make its way to my lung. The relief was so overwhelming that I couldn't help but cough. Harsh respite that seemed to clear my mind. My head began to cool down, and my logic started to return. Slowly, Ayatul Kursi came back to me. I decided to twist in my mind, and with each recitation, I felt a surge of chords, gathering more confidence. I finally whispered the prayer out loud, louder and clearer than before. Taking another drag from the cigarette, I decided it was time to act. My plan was simple. First, light a match and glance in the direction where I had seen that thing. If it was still there, I had sprint and leaped onto the roof of the two-story building to the east of it. Wasn't I had make a beeline for my room. Even though I had the lit cigarette in my hand, I planned to light a match anyway. There was no way I was taking any chance. Fear makes you overly cautious, doesn't it? Huh. Lighting the match, opening my eyes, jumping to my feet, running into my room, and locking the door. All of this happened in 5 seconds. Trust me, only 5 seconds. As soon as I turned around inside my room, I saw my phone spinning on the table. For a split second, my heart nearly stopped again just before I fainted from fright. I remembered that vibration mode is a thing. When I answered the call, a barrage of threats, codes, and rapid fire questions came to from the other end. Amidst my stuttering and stammering, I somehow managed to explain the entire incident to my girlfriend. Then I fell asleep. The next day, I woke up around noon. When I got out of bed, my head felt heavy, as if weighed down. I realized my body wasn't feeling right. It seemed like I was about to get sick. Could it be that the fear from last night was causing a fever? With such thought swirling in my mind, I freshened up and had lunch. My body still felt off, and I didn't feel like going outside. I thought I had spent some time on the roof instead. But as soon as I stepped out, yesterday's incident came rushing back to my mind. A shiver ran through my body from fear. Still, I tried to summon calm course and headed to the roof to pass the time. But even there, something felt off. I seemed like the fever had intensified. That figure kept replying in my mind over and over again. It felt as if it was standing right behind me, watching me. I had no idea what to do. Should I investigate and figure out if such things truly exist? Or should I just dismiss it as a trick of my mind and move on? But how could I forget it when I had seen it with my own eyes? Lost in these thoughts, I unconsciously made my way back to my room. That night, I was sitting in my room reading a book. It was almost 1 a.m., according to the clock. Suddenly, I started hearing a faint hissing sounds in my ears. I paused my reading and looked around. Everything seemed normal. Just as I tried to refocus on the book, I heard a voice say, Arif, do you want to see your crafts? Come, come with me. It was a woman's voice, soft yet warm, chillingly sinister. My hands trembled, and the book slipped from my hand, falling to the floor. I looked around, but there was nothing unusual in sight. Then my eyes fell on the book lying on the floor. Its cover was flaking up. To my horror, the title of the book, written in blood red letters, read Invisible Spirit. Suddenly, someone slapped Arif on the back of his head. Unable to maintain his balance, he tumbled off the bed. When he stood up, he realized he was no longer in his room. The bed was his, but why was it in the middle of a road? He looked around and saw no sign of life, not a single soul in sight. Taking a hesitant step forward, his foot struck something. He tripped and fell flat, landing beside a lifeless body. As he turned his head to look at the corpse, Arif froze in shock. The face of the dead body was unmistakably his own. Arif let out a loud scream, losing his grip on reality and collapsed again. When he regained his sense, he looked around and saw that everything was just as it was before. His room, neat and decorated, was back to normal. For a moment, Arif couldn't believe it. How could this be happening to him over and over again? If it was a mistake, why was it happening so repeatedly? His mind was clouded with worry and confusion. Even though he was now alone, the fear lingered. He was afraid to go outside, but the fear of staying inside was even worse. All he could think about was that fear, a relentless force he couldn't snake off. Desperate for a solution, Arif came up with an idea. He decided to visit his two friends and stay at their place for a few days. After some hesitation, he called them. His friends Fahim and Tawhid agreed to come over after a long time. They were both good-looking young men, and their presence would hopefully ease his troubled mind. The three friends enjoyed their meal and headed to the rooftop for some casual conversation. Amid the lively chatter, Arif hesitated for a moment before saying, "I need to tell you something." The room fell silent. Haim looked at him and said, "Go on, tell us everything. Tonight we will listen to whatever you have to say." Gathering courage, Arif recounted everything, the incident on the first night and the events of the previous day. He explained every detail with trembling words. For a moment, both Fahim and Tawhid remained quiet, only to burst into laughter moments later. "Come on, Arif, don't be such a scaredy cat," Fahim explained. "This is just your imagination playing tricks on you. It's nothing more than that." "No!" Arif shouted, his voice trembling with anger and desperation. "I swear I am not making this up. This isn't my imagination. Please, believe me." His voice broke and tears streamed down his face. The laughter faded, and the almost atmosphere turned somber. Fahim spoke hesitantly. "Maybe Arif isn't lying after all. Could it be true that something strange is in this house? Does it mean harm to us, or is it trying to tell us something?" Fahim and Tawhid consoled Arif, assuring him that they would figure things out together. They decided to stay with him for the night, all three of them in the same room. But there was a catch. They wouldn't actually sleep. Instead, they planned to pretend to sleep while staying alert to see if anything unusual happened. As the night deepened, the three friends laid on the bed, pretending to drift off. The room was silent, except for the occasional rustling of sheets. Arif lay in the middle, his heart racing with anticipation and fear. Haim and Tawhid exchanged caution glance, daring to stay vigilant. The clock ticked past midnight. The tension in the room grew heavier with every passing moment. The silence was so intense that even the faintest crack of the wooden floor would have startled them. And then it began. A faint whisper echoed through the room, chilling them to the core. It wasn't coming from outside, it was right there with them. Suddenly, they heard a sound, a faint hunting noise that sent shivers down their spines. It was the sound of a woman crying. The shocks were soft at first, almost as if coming from far away, but they slowly grew louder, filling the room with an eerie resound. Arif froze in fear, unable to move a musical. His heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst. Fahim and Tawhid exchanged terrifying lungs, their earlier bravado evaporating in an instant. Fahim whispered, "Do you hear that? It's it's coming from inside the room." Tawhid nodded, his voice trembling. "It's a woman, but where is she?" The crying continued, its soft crying an overwhelming sense of sorrow and despair. It felt as though the sound was pressing down on them, making the air thick and suffocating. Arif, now pale as a ghost, whispered hoarsely, I told you something is here." The wall stayed rooted to the spot, too terrified to investigate the source of the sound. The clearing seemed to move around the room, circling them as if his invisible presence was searching for something or someone. Gathering all his courage, Tawhid stammered in the trembling voice, "Who? Who are you? Why are you crying here? What do you want?" The room felt silent for a moment, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Then, without warning, a sudden gust of wind tore through the room. The force was so strong that it knocked over the chairs, rattled the windows, and sent papers flying everywhere. The three friends huddled together on the bed, their faces pale with fear. Arif was trembling. Fahim clung to the edge of the bed frame, and Tawhid, despite his earlier courage, was now visibly snapped away. Deep, echoing voice, a mix of sorrow and anger, filled the room. It was neither human or entirely otherworldly. "Why do you disturb my peace?" the voice demanded. "This is my place. Leave, or you will face what I endured." The friends too stand to respond. The voice continued, now tinged with unbearable sadness. "I cry because I am trapped. I cry because no one hears me. And I cry because you area in my way." The wind stopped as abruptly as it had started, leaving behind an unsettling silence. The room was a mess, and the air felt heavy, as if filled with an invisible weight. Haim whispered, "We we need to get out of here now." But Arif shook his head. "No, we need to know more. Why is she trapped? What does she mean?" Tawhid swallowed hard and whispered, "Then we better tread carefully, whatever this is. It's not happy we are here." I wanted to understand the matter more deeply. I was eager to learn her story, the pain and the sorrows she carried in her unseen existence. But Fahim and Tawhid didn't share my curiosity or determination. That very night, they insisted I leave the house without delay. They took me back to my parents' home in the village. Since that day, I have never returned to that house, nor have I ever encountered anything like that again. Though life moved on, a part of me still wonders about her. Who was she? What kept her trapped in the place? And did she snooze to reveal herself to me? Those questions remain unanswered, buried deep in the corner of my mind, haunting me silently like a distant echo of that chilling encounter. So friends, how did you like today's story? Don't forget to let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel.